Howdy.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'm here to get 8 complaint forms.
8?
Yes.
Okay, what type of complaints?
Against employees of Overland Park Police Department.
Okay, come on in. Okay, tell me what happened.
Oh, well, I'd rather have a form and write it down because I have all of the evidence outside of here. I didn't want to bring in any of my evidence of criminal activity by the police officers.
Excuse me. There isn't a form. I will take your statement, and then there's a report that I will send to our professional standards unit. You can certainly write a written statement that will be included as part of the record, though.
Okay. Well, I guess one of the issues is I don't have the evidence with me at this moment.
Okay.
I have evidence of Overland Park Police Department employees assisting in a kidnapping, and I also have telephone conversations with Overland Park Police employees who basically were rude, wouldn't listen to anything, accused me of being argumentative, and wouldn't answer simple yes or no questions. So I just want to know, what is your policy in regards to filing complaints against each individual, because I intend to file a complaint against each individual.
Well, you contact a supervisor, which you've done.
Okay.
And you give me a statement, and then I will, as I explained, send it to our internal affairs unit, and it will be investigated.
By yourselves?
No. Well, yes, by detectives within the professional standards unit.
Okay. Now, also, can I go ahead and get your insurance bond information so I can file a claim of injury?
I don't have that. You would have to go to the city clerk's office to get that.
You can't tell me who your insurance carrier is?
I'm afraid I can't. I believe the city is self-insured, but that's something that you would get through the city clerk's office.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so I guess, well, I just want to ask you, is it customary for Overland Park Police Department employees to show up in order to assist Kansas Highway Patrol in kidnapping people?
Sir, you're going to have to tell me what happened, okay? You're speaking cryptically, and I mean, of course it's not customary for us to kidnap people, but you're going to need to tell me what happened at some point.
Okay. So I'll tell you a little bit about what happened, as much as I can, and you're welcome to ask as many questions as you would like.
Okay, fair enough. Actually, just a second. Could you, well, actually go ahead.
So I was with my girlfriend, and we were riding down the road, and Kansas Highway Patrol flashed their lights and stopped us.
Okay.
We were in the midst of asking the highway patrolman if he had any factual evidence that would show that the Kansas statutes apply to the person who was operating the car. He did not have any evidence. Some Overland Park police officers showed up and began to just basically stand there. The female officer, I believe her badge number was 1081.
Okay.
She had her hand on her gun. I asked her if she was threatening me, so she said no. I said, well, take your hand off your gun. She said her hand was not on her gun. I have video evidence that her hand was on her gun when she said that.
Okay.
Also, the other officer, I believe his badge number is 1069.
Okay.
He was there, and he was attempting to manipulate my friend who was operating the car And she told him that if I don't stop asking what evidence they're relying on to show that the Kansas statute... Hold on.
Why are you holding your phone in front of you like that?
It's irrelevant.
Actually, it is.
Well, it's
I mean,
completely
I don't mind if you want to record it, but...
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So, so while I was... He threatened her and told her that if I continue to ask about evidence that the Kansas statutes apply to either of us, then he might consider me of having mental health issues. So he was threatening to have me taken away because I was asking for everyone present to provide that evidence, and nobody was able to provide that evidence. Because no one was able to provide evidence that the statutes apply to anyone, then it was not an arrest that occurred, it was a kidnapping. Your Overland Park police officers, the two that were there, oversaw that kidnapping, assisted with it, and were complicit in it. I placed calls to speak to, I believe it's a lieutenant in this office.
We don't have a rank of lieutenant.
Okay, it might have been a sergeant then.
Or a captain.
I don't think it was a captain. It would probably have been a sergeant. I have all their names down somewhere. Okay. And he said, of course the Kansas statutes apply. I asked him for evidence. And he told me, I don't want to argue with you. I said, I'm not attempting to argue. I'm simply asking you for evidence that the Kansas statutes apply. He was very rude. He wouldn't let me finish a sentence. He wouldn't answer the question at all. And so he basically agreed through his inability to articulate any evidence that his Overland Park police officers kidnapped, assisted in the kidnapping.
So were you removed from the car?
Was I removed from the car? No.
Okay. Continue.
My friend was removed, and she was placed in a cage.
Okay. Who was your friend?
Nikki Herman.
Okay.
So this would have been the kidnapping that occurred the day before yesterday at around 5 or 6 o'clock p.m.
Okay.
Right off the highway.
Okay.
And so I want to know what your policy is in filing a complaint against each individual. And I also would like to have you hold the people who oversaw the kidnapping criminally responsible, like I believe it is your job to do.
Okay. My job, my responsibility is to take a statement from you, which we will do today, and then I will forward the appropriate report to our professional standards unit, and they will investigate it. If there is any evidence of criminal activity, it would be reviewed by the district attorney, who would make a determination as to what, if any, charges would be filed.
I guess the issue that I'm struggling with is all of you seem to be under the assumption that the Kansas statutes apply. For example, if I ask you right now, are you under the assumption that Kansas statutes apply to me? Yes or no? What would be your answer?
They apply to all of us, sir.
So would that be a yes?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any factual evidence that would support your claim that the Kansas statute applies to me?
What do you mean by factual evidence? We're within the state of Kansas, and there are Kansas statutes that govern conduct in this state. I'm just not sure what it is that you're trying to ask.
Well, you say that we're within the state of Kansas. Are you referring to the place known as Kansas, or are you referring to the legal fiction that is called the state of Kansas?
Okay, let me get you a sheet of paper, okay?
So you're just going to ignore the question?
No, I'm not ignoring the question. I've answered it, and you reworded it.
You actually haven't.
But I have.
Well, I'm asking you for clarification into what you mean by state of Kansas.
The state of Kansas.
Are you referring to the legal fiction?
I don't know what you mean by that, but let me get you some paper, and you can write it out.
So you have no facts?
What do you mean by facts, sir?
A fact is something real. So some fact that correlates that because of my physical location that Kansas statutes apply to me. I want a fact that will correlate those two things?
I can't get that for you, sir.
So
I
you're
will-
not aware of it. You're not
I
aware
will-
of any in existence.
Okay. Remember you said that when you spoke with somebody yesterday that you didn't like being interrupted?
Yeah,
Okay. I don't either, sir.
great.
Okay, so I will go and get you some paper, and I'll need you to write out your complaint, and if you have the names, that's great, and if not, that's okay too. I can figure out who they are. I will be right with you.
It's one thing to avoid interruption, it's another to avoid the question entirely.
Here you go, sir.
Are you going to respond? It's one
I've
thing.
responded, sir.
Well, you haven't. You haven't clarified what you mean by state of Kansas.
Do you want to write out a statement for me? I'm asking you to please write out a statement for me.
I do, but I don't have all of my evidence with me.
Okay. But you can write.
Well, I don't have all of the names that I need. I don't have all of the
I can look
times
them
and
up.
whatnot.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how you can look up phone calls and whatnot.
Okay. Is that a no?
No, it's not a no at all.
Okay.
I'm just saying I want to file a complaint,
Okay.
but right now we are not at that point.
Okay.
You said we are in the state of Kansas, and I'm attempting to clarify what you mean specifically by state of Kansas.
By the state of Kansas, the geographical location, and I don't know what you're looking for beyond that.
Okay, so why is it that you
Okay,
believe...
Sir, I'm not going to get into a discussion with you on where the state of Kansas is.
Well, no, I'm not asking about that. You just said that the Kansas statutes apply to me.
Yes, sir, they do.
So I'm asking you, what fact correlates my physical location to rules written on paper applying to me?
I don't know.
You don't know.
No.
Thank you for being honest.
Okay.
So you're not aware of any factual evidence that the Kansas statutes apply to me?
Sir, we're done.
Why?
We're finished.
I can't file my complaint?
Yes, you can. I've asked you to write a statement.
Well, how can I write a statement without all the evidence?
How can you file a complaint without the evidence?
Well, that's why I came in asking for 8 complaint forms.
Okay, as I explained, we don't. What you can do is you can just get some paper, and then you can write out your complaint on that with your evidence, and then you can bring it back to me, and then I can complete what I need to do so that your complaint will be investigated.
Okay, do you have an email address?
Yes, I do.
I don't know why we're done. I thought we were having a pretty good conversation here.
Well,
At least you've been honest so far.
okay.
You what?
I am always honest, sir.
Well, except you do assume that the Kansas statutes apply to me, even though you...
Are you assuming that they don't?
Well, I have to unless there's evidence that they do, right? The burden of proof lies on the one making the claim.
Okay.
I'm just trying to do what I do and not be kidnapped and threatened by people.
There's my email address, sir.
Okay. Roger, Pesek at opkansas.org.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Okay.
And can I get your name?
Robbie.
Robbie or Robert?
Robbie.
And how is that spelled, sir?
Robbie.
And your last name?
That's the entirety of it.
That's the entirety of it?
Yep.
Okay, do you have an address?
An address?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Did you want to mail me something?
No, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the report while you gather your evidence.
Oh, do you require a home address?
We can take a complaint without it.
Okay.
But
how about an email address?
an email address is fine.
ACU RIO US INT ELL ECT @gmail.com.
you have a phone number?
503-490-4801. You might consider carefully the questions that I've asked you today, because the fact that you don't know any factual evidence that would prove that those Kansas statutes apply means that nobody else does, and everybody who decides to apply those statutes without factual evidence, personal first-hand knowledge of factual evidence, is committing a crime.
Okay, thank you.
So remember that.
I will, thank you.
You might choose to have an ethical job, one that pays more and doesn't involve you committing crimes against innocent people.
Okay. So I work, I'm actually off the next 2 days, but any sergeant can take your complaint.
Excellent. So, and okay, go ahead, sorry.
But if you want to speak with me again, because we have, I'm already somewhat familiar with, excuse me,
yeah,
somewhat familiar with your complaint. I will return to work Saturday at 6 a.m. and I work until 2.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you for your, thank you for being cordial.
You're very welcome.
Nobody else has.
Sorry to hear that. Right this way.
This way?
This way.